we're just going to divide the top number by the bottom number. So another way to think about it, if we've got top number over bottom number, our division problem is going to look like this. The top number always goes on the inside. Another thing that I want you to get down is that we are going to divide until the decimal ends or repeats. Until it ends or repeats. If it doesn't end or repeat while we're dividing, round to the nearest thousandth. So if we start dividing and it doesn't end or repeat, we're going to stop after the third decimal point, or third spot after the decimal point. But if it does end, if it just takes a couple of times to get this, then we don't have to worry about it. And we're going to talk at the end of this lesson about a way that we can kind of see from the start if a decimal is going to end or repeat. Sometimes there's numbers that we can look at. Oh. Alright, so let's look at our first example here. So write 1/6 as a decimal. So we're going to take 1, put that on the inside, and 6 is going to go on the outside. Okay, 6 does not go into 1. Or I guess we could think about it this way. How many times does 6 go into 1? 0 times. So make sure that you put the 0 over the 1. That way we just stay organized. We don't get out of order. It's going to make more sense. Okay, since we can't do 6 into 1, we're going to put a decimal point after this 1. And if we put the decimal point after the 1, we're going to have to bring it straight up to the top in our answer as well. And we're going to add a 0 after that decimal point. So it's 1.0. So one important thing to note. Have we changed what's on the inside of this division problem? Have we actually changed the number? Is 1 the same thing as 1.0? Which is the same thing as 1.00, right? So all we're doing is making it look different. We're not changing it. So now, when we divide, we're going to think about 6 goes into 10 how many times? 1 time. So we're going to put a 1 above that 0. And then subtract 6. And now we're just going to keep dividing and pretend there's no decimal point there. So drop down, and we get 4 when we subtract. Now 6 does not go into 4. So what we're going to do is add another 0 at the top and bring it down to make 40. Another thing that's important, make sure that you're adding the 0 to this top up here. Make it look like 100 now, 1.00. If you don't, you're going to start to get off whenever you write your answer up at the top. Okay? So make sure you put that 0 there so you know where you're writing your next number over. 6 goes into 40 how many times? 6 times. 6 times 6 would be 36. Yep. So subtract 36. When we subtract 36, we're left with 4. Okay, let's do one more time, but we are, since 6 does not go into 4, add another 0 to the top, pull it down to the bottom, make that 40. 6 goes into 40. This sounds familiar. 6 times. And when we subtract 36, once again, we're going to get 4. So you notice what's going to happen. The 6 is going to keep repeating. Does the 1 repeat with it? No, because we're not getting another 1. We're just getting all 6s from here on out. So our answer is going to be 0.16 with that 6 repeating. So we could say 1/6 equals 0.16. And what do we do to show that just the 6 is repeating? Charlie? You raise your hand. Taylor? You put a line above just the 6. Just the 6. If you put a line over the 1 and the 6, you would be saying it's 0.16161616. That's not right. It's 0.16 repeating. So put a line over the number or numbers that are repeating. Okay? So let's look at another one together. 7/8. So 7's going to go on the inside. 8's going to go on the outside. 8 goes into 7 0 times. Put a 0 over that 7. And since we can't do it, once again, put your decimal point, pull it up to the top, and add a 0 after the 7. So now we're thinking 8 into 70. 8 goes into 70 8 times. Yep. So when 8's going to go over that 0, and we're going to subtract 64. So 8 doesn't go into 6, pull down another 0. 8 goes into 60. 7 times. And 8 times 7 is 56. When we subtract, we get a 4. 8 doesn't go into 4. Add another 0 up top and pull it down. 8 goes into 40. 5 times. And 8 times 5 is exactly 40. So if we have a remainder of 0, that means we are done dividing. So we can now say that 7/8 equals 0.875. 7/8 is 0.875. So any questions about turning fractions to decimals so far? No? All right. So go ahead and do these next 2 then on your own. Next 2 on your own. Okay, so 3/5, when you divide this, 3 goes on the inside, 5 goes on the outside. 5 doesn't go into 3, so you got to add your 0.0. But this one's going to work out nicely because 5 goes into 30 exactly 6 times. So we end up getting 0.6. So one other thing I want to show you with this, sometimes these don't have to be divided. In this case, you probably needed to, but 0.6, how would you say that with place value? 6 what? 6 is in the what place? Tenths, 6 tenths. 3/5, if you multiply both of these by 2, you get 6/10, or 6 tenths. 6 tenths. So if you can get a fraction with a 10 at the bottom or 100 at the bottom, then you can use place value to easily go from one to the other. Or you can always divide, you get the right answer anyways. 2 4/9, okay? So if it's a mixed number, that 2 needs to go in front of the decimal point. So you already know about your answer. It's going to be 2 point something. What I would do is forget about the 2 then and just focus on the 4/9. So do 4 on the inside and 9 on the outside. You could have also turned 2 4/9 to an improper fraction, and you still should have got the same answer. That's another way to do that. But I think sometimes it's easier just to think about the 2 in front of the decimal point. Divide your 4/9. 9 doesn't go into 4, but 9 goes into 40. 4 times, right? And 9 times 4 is 36. So when we get 4, we're going to pull down a 0. I would do this a couple of times just to make sure it works out how you think it is. But whenever you start doing this, what's going to happen? Yeah, that 4 is going to be repeating. Okay? Just going to continue to give you 40 and then 36 and then 40 then 36. So our answer would be 2 4/9 is 2.4 repeating. So the line only goes over the 4. The line only goes over the 4. Questions on those two? Okay, so let's look at our last one then. So -12/9. So a couple things. With an improper fraction, I could either, first of all, it's got to be a negative, so make sure you don't forget about that. I could either just do 12 on the inside and 9 on the outside. Or I could change this to a mixed number. It would be 1 3/9 and then make it 1 point something. Okay? If we did, I want to show you this way though. If we did 12 divided by 9, does 9 go into 12? Yeah. So we're not going to put a 0 over that 12. We're actually going to put a 1 over the 12, right? And then subtract 9. 12 minus 9 gets us 3. Now 9 does not go into 3. But we still need to keep dividing because our answer doesn't need to be 1 remainder 3. So now we put a 0.0 after the 12 and move our decimal point up to go after the 1. Decimal point straight up goes after the 1. Then we can pull down this 0. So 9 goes into 30 3 times. Subtract 27. We're left with 3. Let's see if this ends up repeating. Pull down your 0. 9 goes into 30 3 times. Subtract 27. And so it is going to end up repeating. So our answer is going to be negative 1.3 with the 3 repeating. Okay, before you go off this paper, I want you to stay on where these questions are, because there's one other thing I want to show you. Sometimes there's nice little shortcuts. One of these is, especially tomorrow, you will need to know this little shortcut. Okay, especially tomorrow. Anything over 9. So any fraction over 9. Any fraction with 9 as the denominator will be the numerator, or the top number, repeating as a decimal. So get that down, then I'll show you a couple examples to illustrate this. Any fraction that has 9 as the denominator is going to be the numerator repeating when you write it as a decimal. For example, we just did 4 over 9. When we did 4 divided by 9, for our last question, we got 0.4 repeating. Look at this one right here. If we were to change this to a mixed number, it would be 1 3/9. And we get 1.3 repeating. So 3/9 is 0.3 repeating. Can we simplify 3 over 9?
Yes.
To what? 1/3. So now you know that 1/3 is 0.3 repeating. So what would 7/9 be? 7 over 9 would be what? 0.7 repeating. 1 over 9 would be 0.1 repeating. Anything over 9 is the numerator repeated. So what about 2/3? 2/3 is what over 9? 6. So it's going to be 0.6 repeating. So you all see that pattern? It just works if 9 is on the bottom. If 9 is the denominator, that's when this works. But anything over 9 is going to be that numerator repeated. So remember that. It's going to help a lot tomorrow as well. Okay? Any questions on this? All right, if not, just a few problems for today. You guys can go ahead and get started on that.